Hey everyone, this week as we're heading into the Thanksgiving holiday, just wanted to pause and say thank you and how grateful we are for our listeners and our guests here on campus. Whether you've joined us on air here or on campus from afar, we really appreciate you guys. The holidays can be super stressful and beautiful at the same time, and between travel and gatherings and to-do lists, it's easy to lose touch with ourselves. That's why this week we wanted to give you something special, something a little different, something that can help you slow down and find a little more peace during a time that can become a little hectic. So we're releasing this episode along with a series of short movement meditation videos that Anna and I will talk about later in this episode. Think of this as our way of saying thank you, a little bit of a gift from our team. These gentle practices are designed to help you bring more mindfulness and motion into your life. So even when it feels hard, you can find a way to calm down and find a little bit of gratitude. Now let's dive into a conversation with Anna, who is going to share with us all about moving meditation and how that can help quiet the mind and bring you back to yourself just in time for this holiday season. Anna, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You know, I don't usually get that answer. Most people aren't super excited the first time around. I'm glad you are.
Yeah, it's very exciting. This is a cozy little space we're in. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Did you know this was down here?
I had no idea. This is my first time down here.
Yeah, this is your first time on our podcast, but not your first podcast, right?
Just one other, yes.
What was that one all about? What did you talk about?
That was an internal podcast for physical therapy and workflows, which is so random. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, this one will hopefully be maybe a little more lighthearted and more informational maybe for our guests.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, again, I appreciate you being here. I would love if we could start off with, because I know you, but some of our guests may not know you, with a little bit about yourself. Just for all of our listeners, some are past guests, some are people that have never been here before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working in some sort of movement world now for 20 years or so. I got really interested in yoga when I was a theater major in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly thereafter, after I graduated with my BFA, I became a yoga instructor and then got really interested in Pilates, and so started teaching Pilates. And that just continued to expand and grow and eventually led me to going back to school to become a physical therapist. I'm now a doctor of physical therapy. I graduated from Columbia University in 2020. So I've been practicing now almost 6 years. And in that past 6 years, as I've continued to grow in sharing physical therapy with folks, I've also started exploring, maybe ironically, or maybe this makes sense, more meditation, energy healing like Reiki. And so there's been like kind of this interesting growth in my career and professional life, kind of blending more physical movement with meditation, mindfulness, energy healing practices.
That's sweet. That's quite the trajectory you've been on to get to where you're at.
Yeah, it's been fascinating, and I continue to be amazed at how many layers there are to our experience, both of movement and exercise, but also to healing practices. So it's like a never-ending area for growth and learning.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about some of this stuff because, I mean, selfishly, I don't know much about moving meditation, kind of coined that way, but I've always called, interestingly enough, my Tai Chi practice is almost like a moving meditation.
Absolutely.
So I would love to start off with our first question for you is, what is a moving meditation for somebody that might not know?
Yeah, I love that you brought up Tai Chi. I think it's such a great example of a moving meditation. And I think we could think of a moving meditation really as being any sort of movement that also combines some awareness of our breathing, maybe visualization exercises, more sensation of just our internal experience within the movement. So it's not just about creating some movement that we're looking to create to like match a particular form on the outside, but it's really more about like what is our internal experience with that movement.
So, like physically speaking, though, would you describe a moving meditation as you're walking and trying to meditate, you're doing yoga and trying to meditate, or is just, your chest rising up and down? Is that a moving meditation?
Yeah, I think that these are all really amazing examples, right? And I think the examples or the options for moving meditations in some ways are endless. Yoga, of course, is a
Okay.
very common moving meditative practice. Certainly, Pilates could be considered, Tai
Okay.
Chi, Qigong. Walking meditation, that's another great one, right? Like just taking a walk, but also being aware of your experience during the walk, becoming aware of your breathing while you're walking. In theory, even strength training that is more mindful and purposeful and really has this connection to, what is your experience within your own body? Not just completing the sets and reps, but what does it feel like for you, right? That too could be a moving meditation.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. When you come at it from that angle, I guess it's kind of whatever you want it to be is moving meditation. It's just the intention behind it. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, how did you get to this point of being interested in this idea of moving meditation? Because you have a background in things like yoga, you mentioned Pilates, physical therapy, Reiki being energy work. How did you land in this space?
Yeah, I think it's been organically growing over time and over my career. And as I've, kind of added other areas of knowledge or training to my career, I've just kept seeing these sort of synchronicities between what if we approach movement just a little tiny bit differently, to add this mindful piece to it. And then at the same time, as I've been learning more about how to share meditation with folks, also acknowledging the challenges of sitting still while you're meditating. And so that there was like sort of like a happy meeting there between the movement and the meditation that just sort of developed organically as I was sharing different practices.
I mean, that's the most common thing I hear about meditation is that I just can't sit still, or like, I can't because of XYZ thing. And that's
Yeah.
usually the stillness factor.
Right.
Do you find that if you lead somebody through this practice, that they can get out of that kind of mindset pretty quickly?
And I think it's a process for everybody. I think the stillness can be a real challenge for any number of reasons. It could just be that it's unfamiliar, right? Like somebody is used to having more movement in their life and now they're being asked to sit still for however long the meditation is, and that can be really tough. It could be that somebody's mind is just really busy and sitting still brings someone's focus to their thoughts, perhaps more so than they're feeling like they want to address in that moment. It could be that there are strong emotions that are wanting to be nurtured, but sitting still with them feels a little too intense. It could be that somebody's experiencing, real chronic pain concerns, and so sitting still feels kind of terrible for them. Like it's not the best match in that moment.
Yeah.
And so I think as we get into these moving meditation ideas, right, this idea of bringing mindfulness into movement in any form, there's lots of varieties. I think what happens is some of those challenges that are barriers to a stillness meditation start to just kind of drop away, right? Moving meditation can be great for easing chronic pain. It can soothe our emotions. It can quiet the mind, right? If being really still is unfamiliar, then it's like it's the doorway into meditation sometimes for folks if it's really new for them.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you about my first experience with something similar to this, or maybe at least my early experience that I remember with meditation?
Absolutely.
So I was young. I would say I'm closer to probably 7 years old than 6 years old. And I did martial arts, and our instructor, as the kids' class, tried to get a bunch of kids to sit still and meditate. And so you had this dynamic of, while I was very young, and I say kids, there were other people that were older in the same class. And so it's kind of like follow the leader in a way, but he had us all sit as still as possible in a cross-leg style and try and tune in and listen to the ticking of a clock, all while having a street road outside of the studio that we were in, and you could hear the cars going by and the people walking and the noises, but you were trying to tune in on that of the second hand.
Right.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
And that was my first impression of meditation.
Okay.
And it didn't go well.
Sure.
Go figure, I was a kid. But also, like, I found that once I was able to lean on movement versus that, I was able to meditate. I just didn't know what I was doing, as you have instructed people through.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a great example of, right, that just didn't feel especially comfortable in that moment, understandably.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
listen to the ticking of this clock, child.
Right.
Yeah. So I found it really, that was the first thing that popped in my head when I saw that this topic was kind of come up and we were going to talk about it. So with something like that in mind, what are kind of the components of a like simple movement, sensory aware meditation, and how do they all work together to get us away from maybe like what my description just was of a meditation?
Yeah. Such a great question. And I feel like this question is so incredibly rich and perhaps a topic unto itself. But I think some of the key components of like moving with mindfulness or movement-based meditation have to do with breathing awareness, right? Bringing our awareness to our breath in some way.
Okay.
I think it has to do some with the quality of interoception. So this is our body and our brain's ability to sense our own internal experience, right? So breathing is a good example of this. You know, there are meditations where we become aware of like our heartbeat as an example. Even just being aware of our sensory experience within movement is an interoceptive type of quality. I think the movements themselves can be really simple and slow. It can also be kind of nice to do movements that are a little bit more complicated,
Sure.
complex, cross over from one side of the body to the other, because there's so much research that supports when we do these like kind of complicated cross-body movements. We get into some really interesting things within our brain. There's some novelty in that our brain gets really excited about. And then there's also all this healing that happens when we start to get into these kind of cross-body approaches.
It's really interesting you bring that up because, you know, I'm just anecdotally saying these things sometimes, but I've always believed in that. And it's something that I teach when I teach Tai Chi is, you know, things like moving the right and left hand side of your body in two different directions at the same time, moving the lower half of your body and the upper half of your body in two different directions or at the same time is not something we normally do.
Right.
And when you're doing that, and I've had so many people say this over the years, you can't think about anything else.
Nope.
If you do,
can't.
you're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing to see people that have trouble, and this is just my experience, but people that have had trouble to really hone in and do something that's slower can all of a sudden do it.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I think, there's something about these more complicated movements, right, that are bringing our focus and our concentration, right, like, which is what meditation is all about, right? But we're just doing it through movement with our bodies. Absolutely. Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. So I did have a kind of basic question for you. Say somebody didn't know anything about this moving meditation, this idea of this type of mindfulness practice, and they came to you and they're like, but I want to try it with this idea of using your breath and sensory awareness or movement and stillness at the same time. What would be like the first thing you tried with somebody? Would you be like, all right, you're going to walk with me and we're going to try it? Or would you do, here's these complicated moves that do work the left and right hand side, and we're going to try that? What would be your go-to for someone that's never done it before, but it's movement curious?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this does depend a little bit upon the person and maybe getting a feeling for what I think is maybe gonna feel best to them based upon, maybe other things they've experienced and I know that they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So it certainly is very adaptable. One of the very easiest ways to experience this is just very simply to tune into the movement of our own breathing, right? Um, so it could just be that we have one hand on our abdomen, one hand in the middle of our chest, and we're just starting to bring awareness to our breath, right? Even that in a really subtle way is a little crossbody, um, different movement between the two sides of the body, right? The two sides of the body are picking up on slightly different information, noticing the movement of the breath. And then that mindfulness piece of just kind of tapping into these aspects of our breathing that maybe we don't normally pay attention to day to day. I think even that, something as simple as that, can be really powerful, easy to digest, and it's a quick little like nugget or piece, if you will, that you can easily take with you. And then, of course, from there, other just like really simple things are. I've had folks work with connecting their awareness of their breath to just opening and closing the hands, and even getting into like a little alternating pattern with the opening and closing of the hands can be really nice. So
That's
again,
cool.
It's that cross-body movement. It's a little tiny bit complicated, right? So it's bringing your focus to how do I coordinate my movement of my breath with the movement of my hands. And then if you add that alternating component to it, it's still relatively simple, but it's complicated enough for our brains that it's giving us that desired effect.
So is that like, say both your hands are closed, you inhale, you open your right, you exhale, you close your right, inhale, open your left, exhale, close your left? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I've had folks do in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly grounding.
I could see it.
It's complicated enough, but it's also in certain ways just really simple and easy to adapt to.
That's really neat. I could see that being beneficial. To me, it's complicated in the same way as like patting your head and rubbing your stomach's complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah. And some people are really good at it and some people aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've talked or touched on it a little bit, this idea of like cross-body movements. You even just kind of mentioned it when you were talking about putting your hand on your chest. What exactly, I have my theories here, but what exactly does that cross-body movement support and benefit?
Yeah. And this is a huge question, and you're right to say, like, I think there are a lot of theories about what this can do. Of course, in the PT world, this goes much deeper, but also way more expansive when we're talking about rehabilitation types of practices. But for our purposes here, as we're talking about what is that doing within the context of a moving meditation, we've touched on this a little bit already. It has to do with that we're just giving the two sides of the body, and therefore the two sides of the brain, different inputs in terms of either motor control or sensory awareness. And the brain just gets really excited about that. Right? Like our brains really it's a little bit novel, which is really, really good in terms of our ability to learn something new. It prompts a little bit of neuroplasticity. So the brain gets excited about, this is new, this is different. Oh, I'm getting some different motor and sensory inputs. And so from there, I think that's when we're getting that sense of like, oh, my focus is really into this. It's pulling our focus. And then all of these meditative effects have what we call a parasympathetic response in the nervous system, which essentially is like the relaxation response. It's calming everything down, right? So it's that focused awareness that's coming from attuning to our breath or attuning to whether it be simple or complicated movements. And then as we tune that focus in, the brain gets really excited about that. And then at the same time, it's also producing this relaxation response.
So you used a word I want you to expound on, neuroplasticity.
Yeah. And again, there's so much that we could say about this, and I feel like I am by no means an expert in the world of neuroplasticity. But essentially, it's the brain's ability to change and grow. We are more neuroplastic when we are kids, as we all know, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of learning that's happening in the early stages of our lives. Neuroplasticity does slow down as we get older. And there are some natural limits. Scientists used to think that we stopped, like at some point that we were no longer neuroplastic. But this is not true. As we all know, we can still learn, we can still grow, we still heal. And so we still have these abilities that we can tap into, whether it's there's a concept of pruning, which is like we're getting rid of neural pathways that we no longer need in the brain. And then the flip side of that is that we're potentially creating new ones as well.
That's really neat. I think that is, I've never had a conversation with somebody around this ideal that I've had with working with people through Tai Chi and those cross-body movements, but all this makes absolute total sense. I've seen it over and over again, and I think it's really cool that I'm hearing about another way and that you're passionate about, that you've been able to do the same thing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so important, right?
Yeah.
Just like keeping muscle on as we get older, like keeping that brain working as we get older makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
It is. Something that you have kind of touched on is, you really want to help people feel more comfortable around meditation. How does movement in general make that transition easier or even more meaningful?
I think the transition into meditation through movement is really helpful to folks. What I hear a lot is when somebody sees like a class that's listed as a moving meditation, I often get a lot of folks who have only maybe experienced meditation a couple times, but they come to class and I'll ask like, oh, what drew you to class, or what interested you in class today? And often what I'll hear them say is, well, I've tried sitting still in meditation and it felt horrible, but I really want to meditate. And so I'm here to learn about a different style of meditation. And so I just think that speaks to, I think we have this bias that meditation has to be done fully in stillness in a seated position. And some traditional form of meditation are practiced that way. And that might be something to explore, and that might really resonate with some folks. But it does have some limitations, right? It could be that someone's just really uncomfortable in that seated position. And so how are they going to get to a meditative state if their low back is hurting the entire time? That doesn't really seem fair. So it's examples like that I've heard over and over again that I think really allows for this type of work. Like, how can we take these mindfulness practices, put them into some movements, and then give people the experience of meditation without it feeling like it's forced through a shape that just doesn't feel comfortable. Yeah.
Do you feel that your PT background has really aided you in helping get more people into this through that movement?
I do think so. And I think, one of the things that's really cool about being a PT is, even though when I show up to teach moving meditation or any type of meditation, I am showing up more as a meditative or movement guide rather than a PT per se. But I think what's really nice about my background is because I'm anticipating that some folks will likely have some area of their body that's not feeling particularly great on any given day. Yeah. I think it does aid in like how we adapt something so that it feels more comfortable.
Sure.
Or, just finding like what is going to feel healing to this person, in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have something that's we didn't plan for.
Okay.
And I was curious. Well, number one, did you have anything else that you wanted to speak about around this idea of mindfulness and moving meditation? Is there anything we didn't really get to touch on?
I don't think so, but if there's anything that you think we've left out, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. Here's the one thing I think we've left out.
Okay.
I think that it would be cool, and you can tell me no if you don't think you can do this, but do you think that you could verbally lead our listeners through something that's like 15, 20, 30 seconds long that they could try and practice at home that you would consider like moving meditation, even that like open hand, closed hand, or you think it's possible?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Do you mind?
I don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'll do it along with you.
Okay. So we're going to try just a quick little example of a moving meditation.
Okay.
And
what do I need to do here? Do I need to sit, stand? What do they need to do?
yeah, I think it's up to the person. You
Okay.
could do this literally in any position. So I would say the best position is going to be the one that feels most comfortable to you. So it could be done lying down, could be done seated comfortably in a chair. You could do it standing as well.
What about driving?
I think that meditation and driving
I'm
are a complicated mixture.
For
Not to
sure.
say that you can't mindfully drive. Please do mindfully drive. But yeah, maybe don't do this while driving.
Perfect. All right, lead me through it.
Okay. So we're just going to let our hands rest comfortably. So if you're sitting, your hands can rest comfortably in your lap. If you're lying down, the hands might be just resting beside you, or certainly in standing, your hands can come beside you. And we're just very simply going to start to open and close our hands. So curling the fingers in and then opening the hands wide. So we'll start with both hands. And as you start to just get a feel for this movement, we're going to bring our breathing into this. So the next time you open both hands, take a deep inhale. And then exhale and close the hands. So let's do this 2 more times, real simple. Inhale, open, stretch wide through the fingers. Exhale, close the hands. So let's try one more with both hands, just like this. And then we're going to try one hand at a time. It doesn't matter which hand you start with. So pick one hand. You're going to inhale that hand open. Exhale, closed. Switch hands. Inhale, open. Exhale, closed. So let's go back and forth. Maybe another 1 to 2 times, depending upon your unique rhythm of movement. So as we move through perhaps just one more slow, deep breath here with our movement, take a little pause. Just relax the hands. Maybe take a moment more to notice your breath. And just notice how you feel. That was a really short little example, but just kind of tune in with yourself and see, what was that experience like for you? What do you think, Alan?
When I'm doing this, because I'm running a soundboard, I'm watching Adobe, I'm reading these notes, checking the time, making sure I'm being mindful of your time. I'm thinking about a lot of things here.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't think about anything else. For better or for worse, I couldn't. Yeah, that was it. That was a really quick way to get out of my head. I find that it felt similar to other practices like my Tai Chi practice that is a little more complicated for sure. That was cool.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thank you for that. That was a gift. Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. I know we didn't talk about that at all, and I just threw it on you. So
that's okay.
I'd like to end our conversation today with talking about what you and I worked on a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Yes.
You want to tell our listeners about that?
Yes. We filmed 3 different They were more yoga-based sequences, but
Hmm.
also had some elements. There's a little tiny bit of Pilates and physical therapy kind of interwoven in there, but they're just short little movement sequences that give some nice examples of like what a moving meditation might be,
Hmm.
with some awareness of some common areas of kind of aches and pains. So movements that might feel good for easing common aches and pains. And then this idea of incorporating the breath, being
Yeah.
mindful about the movement. And they're just short, easy to practice, easy to explore, and just give you a feel for what this work might be for you.
Yeah, they were really fun to film. They're short, they're sweet, they're to the point. You did an excellent job with them. Listeners, if you're curious, you can go find those on our YouTube page. If you are on our Skyterra at Home app, you should be able to find those on there as well shortly, which is cool. And hopefully, we plan on doing more of those with you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, if you're down, I'm down.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you have a class here in a minute. Are you going to go do some moving meditations here in a minute? Or is it
uh,
yoga class this afternoon?
we do yoga, and then we have a relaxation meditation. Before we get deeper into relaxation, we do actually do a little bit of a moving meditation
cool.
first. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I hope those classes go awesome for you. I know I've heard from many guests how much they enjoy your classes and when you get to come in. And I appreciate you being on here. We'll get you back on here soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, listeners. If you have any questions for either of us or anyone really, send us an email at inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. We'll get back to you. And don't forget to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to these podcasts at. Give us a rating. That's really appreciated. That helps us get our Inspired Intentions Skyterra message out to the people. So until next time, we'll catch you then.
The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness Retreat. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill. Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Subscribe on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found. If someone you know might benefit from this podcast, share Inspired Intentions with them and give us a 5-star rating. Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks for listening.